For decades, the United States stood at the center of the global order. Its economy shaped world markets, its military dominated the seas, its technology influenced billions of lives. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, America became the world's only superpower. But today, another nation is rising fast, a country with the world's largest population, massive industrial power, advanced technology, and growing military influence, China. And many in Washington now believe that China could become America's greatest challenge of the 21st century. But why? Why is China's rise causing so much concern in the United States? To understand that, we first need to look at how China transformed itself from one of the poorest nations on earth into a global superpower. Only a few decades ago, China looked very different. In the late 1970s, much of the country remained poor and underdeveloped. Millions lived in rural areas, and China's economy was far behind Western nations. But then, everything began to change. China opened its economy to global trade and foreign investments. Factories rapidly expanded across the country. International companies moved manufacturing to China because labor was cheap and production costs were low. Over time, China became known as the world's factory. From clothing and electronics to furniture and machinery, products labeled "Made in China" spread across the globe. Its economy grew at an astonishing speed. Cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen transformed into massive modern centers filled with skyscrapers, ports, and technology companies. Hundreds of millions of people were lifted out of poverty. And as China became richer, it also became more powerful. Today, China has the second largest economy in the world and is the largest trading partner for many countries. For the United States, this created a new reality. America was no longer dealing with a weak developing country. It was now facing an economic giant capable of challenging American influence around the world. But economics is only part of the story. The real competition between China and the United States is also about technology. For years, America dominated the world of innovation. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon helped the United States lead the digital age. But China began investing heavily in technology and artificial intelligence. Chinese companies like Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba, and Byte expanded rapidly. China also became a major player in electric vehicles, surveillance systems, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. And this worried American officials. Why? Because technological leadership is closely connected to economic and military power. Whoever controls the most advanced technologies may shape the future of the global economy. One major battleground is semiconductors, tiny computer chips that power phones, computers, military systems, and artificial intelligence. The United States fears that if China dominates this industry, it could gain enormous strategic advantages. This is one reason why Washington has imposed restrictions on advanced chips exported to China. The competition is no longer just about trade, it is about who will lead the future. As China's economy grew, so did its military ambitions. Over the past 2 decades, China has dramatically expanded and modernized its armed forces. It built advanced missiles, cyber capabilities, aircraft carriers, and one of the world's largest navies. This has increased tensions in Asia, especially in the South China Sea and around Taiwan. Taiwan is one of the most sensitive issues between China and the United States. China considers Taiwan part of its territory and has repeatedly said it wants eventual reunification. But Taiwan operates with its own government and maintains close ties with the United States. Washington officially follows a complex policy known as strategic ambiguity, but it also sells weapons to Taiwan and opposes any forced takeover. As Chinese military activity around Taiwan increases, many fear that the region could become one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the world. For the United States, maintaining influence in Asia has been a key strategic goal for decades. But China's growing military presence challenges that balance, and this has led many analysts to describe the situation as a new Cold War. China's influence is not limited to Asia. Through projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested in infrastructure across Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and parts of Europe. It has funded ports, railways, roads, and energy projects in dozens of countries. Supporters say these investments help developing nations grow economically. Critics argue they also expand China's political influence over the world. At the same time, China has strengthened ties with countries that often oppose Western influence, including Russia and Iran. This growing network of partnerships has raised concerns in Washington. For decades, the United States shaped much of the global system, economically, politically, and militarily. Now, many American leaders fear that China wants to create an alternative global order where Beijing has greater influence. And perhaps the greatest fear is not war itself, but the possibility that America could lose the dominant position it has had since the end of the Cold War. Despite the tensions, the relationship between China and the United States is deeply interconnected. The two economies rely heavily on each other. American companies do business in China. Chinese factories produce goods for American consumers. A direct conflict between the two nations could have enormous consequences for the entire world economy. Because of this, both countries continue to cooperate in some areas while competing furiously in others. Climate change, trade, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, military power, and global influence have all become part of this complex rivalry. Some believe competition between the two superpowers is inevitable. Others believe cooperation is still possible. But one thing is certain: the relationship between China and the United States may define the future of the 21st century. China's rise is one of the most significant geopolitical changes in modern history. To some, China represents innovation, economic growth, and a new global power. To others, it represents a challenge to the international order that has existed for decades. And as both nations continue competing for influence, the world watches carefully, because the outcome of this rivalry may shape the future of global politics, technology, and power for generations to come.